What's going on, folks? Thank you for clicking on this video. If you did, you are a Final Fantasy XI fan, or you're just a fan of me, so you're a Final Fantasy XI fan. Basically, I wanted to tell you my story about Final Fantasy XI. It is the 20th anniversary right today. Today is the 20th anniversary of the game coming out in Japan. However, I am not Japanese. The first time I played was November of 2003, right when the US release came out for this game, right at the beginning of the Rise of Zillar expansion. I really didn't know anything about it. I was expecting, oh, another Final Fantasy game. So, but like this thing cost like $75. This was I got it for I got it for PC, and this was like way more expensive than the normal game. But I saw that it was an MMO and you had to pay $13 a month for it. But I was like, well, it's Final Fantasy. I love Final Fantasy. I'll give it a try. So I finally, I don't remember my experience of first being able to log on and get online and stuff like that. But knowing the way it is today, then it probably wasn't super convenient. But so I log in and I start a character. I chose to be a Gulka just because they're big, and I thought maybe that would be cool. And the Gulka I chose, I named Bellerophon. Bellerophon on the Ifrit server. And I started in Vastok. Okay. So when I got in there, I'm like, this is just weird. This is just not quite Final Fantasy. It was cool that when you changed gear, you could see your character with new gear on. That's awesome. That wasn't a typical Final Fantasy thing, at least up to that point, I think. But when you go outside to fight, you just click fight, and then you wouldn't actually have to put in commands. You just kind of like wait for you to swing every 5 seconds, and it was just weird. And I didn't super get into it. So I played for, I don't know, a couple hours, I think, but I just didn't get into it. So then I had my free trial going. I canceled it, didn't have to pay for anything. And then about a year later, I was bored. Didn't have anything to play at the moment, so I decided I'd install the game again. And this time, I installed the game. I picked a bearded Hume because it looked most like me. It was the dark-colored bearded Hume face, and I chose to start as a warrior. I guess I must have started as warrior because that's just kind of the thing I would do. I would always start as like a typical melee job, not magic based, just an average Hume melee job is kind of what I did. And I chose the name Israfel. Israfel on the Remora server. I didn't choose Remora, it just happened to be on Remora server. This was before you could actually choose which server you wanted to go to. I believe that's how it worked. So I was Israfel on Remora. And I am glad the experience was not quite the same as my first experience, because the way it was different this time was as soon as I popped into existence in Port, well, it must have been Port Windhurst, I started just walking around and kind of updating my settings and stuff like that, and somebody came up to me and just sent me like a message. I'm like, what is this? What is this? I got a message from somebody? I didn't even know how to respond to the message. I didn't know how to, normally you would click Control R to reply to that person who just sent you a tell. I didn't know how to do that. So the person like didn't see me responding, and it was just kind of like, probably saw me spinning around in circles, and then told me, hey, click this to respond to me. And I did, and then it was a character called Deelin, D-E-E-L-I-N, on Remora server, if you ever heard of them. And it turns out she had a link shell with her son called the Wild Bunch. It was just a casual social LS. It wasn't a big deal. They didn't really do endgame stuff. It was just kind of a casual hangout way to just chill out. And eventually, I joined and I started making friends. And one thing led to another, and I just kind of stuck with it. 19 years later, here I am. If I started in 2004 of November, so I guess for me, we're coming up on, I guess it's 17 and a half years since I started playing seriously. So that's how I started. And what I eventually figured out was I like melee jobs the best. I chose to be a monk first of all, and it's just kind of like, I don't know, something about monk just really drove me. I tried red mage, and that was super hard. I would constantly die. I was like hard to get to level 9, and like I had to cast spells. Who wants to do that? And so monk just kind of helped me get into it a little bit more. One thing also helped was I got the Brady Games Guide. I got the I guess it was the spring edition, the second big edition that came out of the Brady Games Guide. And I was looking through there. I was checking out all like the job combinations and what worked best, and it said something about monk is like the easiest to level up to like 1 through 10. I was like, oh, if it's easy, that's great. Something about monks can cut a swath through the landscape before, without even worrying about it. So it's like, that's easy. That works. And so I was like, that sounds great. I'll do that. So then I was monk, and then getting to level 10 itself was tough. Getting beyond level 10, you had to like go to the dunes and get a party going. Just getting to the dunes was a chore in and of itself. I started in Bastock. I remember zoning into Conchta Highlands for the first time, seeing, oh look, it's a lizard. The lizard is even match. I'm level 12 or something monk. I'll just fight this lizard. I die. Of course I died. Because Final Fantasy back then is Final Fantasy hard mode. So I have to go all the way back home. There was no home point warps. I didn't have any outpost warps for sure. I didn't know about that. So eventually, I make it to the dunes. And of course, I die again. Of course I die. It's the dunes. So, at one point, I got together with one of the fellow Link Shell mates. I believe his name was Mike Lee, I think. And he actually led me through the dunes to get to Selbina. And he actually gave me my first set of armor, which was a scale set. And I must have been a warrior at the time because I was able to equip it. The scale gear, level 10 scale gear. I was like, yes, I've got this fantastic gear, level 10. And I had like 1,000 gil to my name. And then somebody else gave me 1,000 gil. I was like, I put in a Link Shell. Can I have 1,000 gil? 1,000 gil would change my life right now. And then somebody gave me 1,000 gil. And I'm like, that's awesome. I can buy stuff now, which, really meant that you could buy like one piece of gear. So eventually, so the moral of the story here is the reason I stuck with the game more than just a few minutes or a few hours is I immediately got introduced to a friend. And that friend introduced me to a group of people that were all friendly, that all worked together and helped each other out. And eventually I became one of the leaders of the Link Shell. I became eventually a leader of a endgame Link Shell that did Dynamis and Sky and all sorts of that stuff. And that kind of fell apart eventually. That's a long story. But yeah, it's the reason I stuck with the game is because of friends and the camaraderie of playing with other people. These days I mostly play by myself, and mostly because it's got a lot of sentimentality in there. This is also a reason I quit sometimes too. I play for some time, and then I go away for some time, and it's because I get a little bored with just playing solo or just playing by myself. But grouping up with people and getting into like an end game Link Shell and doing all that stuff, I don't know if it's not my thing anymore. After leading that Link Shell for a long time, dealing with other people, dealing with people's like earning points and getting items and the drama of it, I got burned out. I got burned out on being a leader of the Link Shell. I got burned out on being required to show up for events. I got burned out a lot. But now I play casually, and I play for a little while, and then I quit, and then when I want to pick it up again, I play again. Of course, right now I have about 12 mules, and I'm working on leveling up all of them to 99. I still have 3 to go, just so I can play a Montrove, just so I can make more money in the game, just so I can have it sit in my inventory and not spend it on anything, because I don't do anything in game. So, I don't know. It's fun, I guess. So that's kind of my Final Fantasy story in general. Please leave a comment down below. Tell me your Final Fantasy story. There's tons of more stories that I have, but I wanted to make this episode a little bit brief. Thank you for watching. Happy anniversary. We'll see you in Vanadil. Bye-bye.